A religious group shows up in town to protest a veteran's funeral. Their banners include signs that claim that God hates and God loves dead soldiers. Do counter protesters have the right to protect the families of the fallen from these obscene messages by putting sheets on poles, stretched between poles, and hold up clean white sheets over those offensive messages? Or do the families of the fallen owe it to the religious group to hear them out? A white separatist group wants to come to a college campus and argue that people of color are inferior. In theory, they'll never directly advocate violence against people of color, but we know that the more this is heard, the more POC will experience apparently random violence at the hands of young white men. None of the arguments are new. None of them rest on solid data. The arguments are based on cherry picked lines from research presenting the most extreme valleys in data that are not representative of the known state of affairs. Further, the group is here specifically to advance a propaganda point that theirs is a free speech cause and they should be heard. Do students of that college owe it to the white separatists to hear them out? Or do students have an equal First Amendment protection to sing Waltzing Mathilda in such a way that their Jewish friends, friends of color, and other targets of obscene messages are protected from these messages? If their First Amendment right is to be abridged in some fashion, why do they lack these rights while other counter protesters retain them? A think tank group wants to come to campus and advocate that only two genders are acceptable. Their covert message is that trans people do not have the right to exist. Do students at the college have the right to chant positive affirmative messages, drowning out the hate speech disguised however thinly as academic inquiry? Or do trans people owe it to the people invested in using them as political footballs to hear them out? Remember that trans people, in particular black trans women, are the most or second most murdered people in the US per capita, usually just about tied with Native Americans off reservation. The speakers will never directly advocate murder, but the more this sort of speech is heard, the more this group is at risk of murder. Look up stochastic terrorism when you have 20 minutes to learn disturbing facts. If in the first case, decent people have the right to drown out the speech of indecent ones for the sake of decency, and in the following two cases they do not, what is the difference? Is it the inherent worth of the victims of this speech? Speech isn't violence, but can result in higher rates of violence and can emotionally impact those who hear it. Is the wife of a fallen soldier more intrinsically worthy than the trans woman working on her engineering degree? Are her feelings more important than the young black man whose dorm room is about to be decorated with a noose or a swastika made of excrement? Why?